Welcome to the JSE's Market Data Policy Guide. Our policies are designed to help market professionals and data distributors understand the use of each policy, emphasize the applicability thereof, and enhance the compliance with the regulations pertaining to the use and distribution of our market data. There are 5 documents which make up your agreement with the JSE. And they are JSE Data Agreement or Indices Data Agreement, the Products and Services Form, the Market Data Policies or the Indices Market Data Policies, the JDA, which is the JSE Data Agreements, or IDA, which is the Indices Data Agreement, as well as related price list. Finally, there might be technical documents if applicable. In this session, I will be covering Authorized Client. In this section, we'll cover introduction, definition, as well as the application of Authorized Client. The definition of an Authorized Client. Authorized client means a client of a contracted user identified as an authorized client in the usage submission of a contracted user. Authorized client data means any data which an authorized client is allowed to distribute having regard to the relevant eligible data license identified in the usage submission as applicable to that authorized client. This policy applies to the following eligible data licenses: Delayed Level 1 license, Delayed Dual-Branded Equity Level 1 license, Delayed SENS license, Delayed Equity Derivatives license, Delayed Commodity Derivatives license, Delayed Interest Rate license, Listed Company Investor Relations website license, JSE Public Display Equity license, JSE Alt-X Company Investor Relations website, End-of-Day Equities license, applicable only to users authorized to distribute data in print format, End-of-Day Single Display license, and End-of-Day SENS license. Notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in the data agreement, a contracted distributing user may distribute any authorized client data to an authorized client, and such authorized client may distribute any authorized client data to any person subject to the data use restrictions set out in the data agreement. The authorized client is not required to enter into a separate data agreement with the JSE, provided that the authorized client is identified as such by the contracted user in the usage submission by the date on which the next usage submission must be provided by the contracted user. The contracted user pays the fees set out in the price list for distribution of the relevant authorized client data by the authorized client. All related details in relation to the authorized clients must be completed in the relevant section of the usage submission. The authorized client details must include the name of the authorized client, the corresponding eligible data licenses applicable to the authorized client data, and the date from which the authorized client started using any data in its capacity as an authorized client. The contracted distributing user must make sure that each group company redistributor makes sure that each authorized client is aware of the obligations of a user of the authorized client data as set out in the data agreement in respect of the use of the distribution of data, and receives a copy of the policy and all other policies which are reasonably likely to be relevant to the eligible data license and acknowledges receipt thereof in writing. Complies with the provisions of the data agreement in relation to the restrictions on the use and distribution of the authorized client data to third parties, having regard to the type of authorized client data distributed. Is aware that no third party to whom authorized client data is distributed may distribute any authorized client data to any external end user, and is aware that it is not allowed to store, distribute, or otherwise use the authorized client data for any purpose other than as set out in the agreement, but subject to the provisions of this policy. The contracted user must make sure that its and each group company's contract with each authorized client gives the JSE audit rights set out in the data agreement. Thank you. For more information, please email mdclients@jse.co.za.